So in your journals, I have this composition book. What kind of notebook did you guys get in your kits? Is it kind of like that? Okay. So sometimes notebook paper is really thin. So what you can do, and what I've already prepped some pages here, is you can glue two of the pieces together so that that becomes one page. Okay. So if you want to do that really quick, oops, you can do that. And then I'll just use a page that I've already prepped. And the cool thing about Mod Podge versus the gel medium that I usually use is it dries really quick. So probably won't even need to use a hair dryer on it. So I'm just getting the glue all the way across there. And then just lifting it up in the center and then on both ends. Then I just kind of gently rub it together to make sure there's no air pockets in there. And that'll let me know if I didn't get glue on a portion. Then I can go back and add. Or likely it's already dried before I got to this point. Okay, and there you have a thicker page. And then it's not, because the glue dried so fast, you don't have, it's not a soaking wet piece of paper. And it's okay if there's wrinkles in there, because one thing about art journaling is texture is a good thing. This is another composition book that I've been working in, and it's my creative gratitude journal. So I just write down things every day. I try to find 3 things every day that I'm thankful for, and then I write them in here, and I just do different arty things on each page. This is a decorative napkin. I love using those in art journals. Jocelyn's asking if you guys are still hearing feedback. So, yeah, so, I mean, it's going to be a chunky book, but that's okay. This is a decorative napkin over music paper that I put in the background. And these are just white gel pens and doodling. I don't know if you can see that. Kind of some doodling in there. And this is just a paint over collage that I prepared for this week. There are different art journals that you can get. This is a Canson mixed media. I usually always get a mixed media paper because it's thicker and it'll hold your wet medium or your wet paints better. And it works for watercolor as well. It's not like watercolor paper so that the watercolor spreads. That's so lovely for watercolor. But anyway, this one is just, I did both sides on these, and it's just a place where you can play around with different art. You can learn to draw, you can try techniques, and if you don't like it, no big deal. Just turn the page or collage over it. I do that quite a bit. And it's just fun to be able to look back at different things. This was some transfers, which if we have an advanced class, that would be fun for you guys, I think. Okay, so, but I can't take pages out of these. There is a Grumbacher. They're a little more expensive, but the cool thing about them is that you can pop the page out. You can remove the page, so you don't have to deal with the spiral. So I can just work on a piece of paper and then put it in when I'm done. So I really like that concept with an art journal book. Okay, so everybody should have their paper glued together. Oh, hi, Joanne. Welcome. Welcome to the class you scheduled. Okay, so what I'm going to do on our page after it's glued together is I'm just going to start laying out paper because I'm going to cover the whole white area. And really what I don't particularly, personally I don't like straight edges in there. So I'll try to tear it off so it's not quite so straight edged, to tear off, you know, the edge of it. And I just try to alternate between matte paper, book paper, music paper. I even have some Braille paper that I got at an estate sale. I was so excited because that already has texture on it. And I love me some texture. I need some more matte. So I'm just kind of auditioning them per se, like where I'm going to want them before I just start gluing everything down. Maybe some more matte paper on this side. And then once I get it laid out to where I think I'm going to want everything, then I'll start gluing pieces down. Okay, so I kind of like the way that that looks. And then I just kind of move it up a little bit so I'm not gluing everything at once. And if you're using like a glue stick or regular glue and it doesn't stay together, don't get discouraged with that. Just it's a learning thing, because there are times when you're like, oh well, that didn't work out very well. Then you know what to do next time or what not to do next time. That's one thing that I love about art journaling and mixed media in general, is because I'm not working on a canvas where I expect myself to be perfect. An art journal is just a place to learn. And if you like something, if you learned a technique that you really like, then you can go to a canvas and you've already worked out, you know, the bugs, so to speak, like what you should do next time. Or sometimes when I just want to create, but I have no idea what I want to create, I will just start, usually like this, I will start a paint over collage piece, and then ideas start coming. It may come today, it may come another day when I look back at it and go, I should probably do something with this page, but I don't know what I want to do. So Joanne, are you watching to see if anybody else pops in?
I am. I haven't seen
Okay.
anyone yet. I did just send another reminder, so
Okay.
we'll see.
I just didn't want to miss anybody.
Yeah, I know. I'm keeping an eye.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
One of my favorite things to do while I'm working in my art journal is either listen to music, usually super loud so I can sing along when my family's at work. They don't really care for it when I do that when they're home. I don't know why. So rude. Or I'll listen to like podcasts or books on tape. I love books on tape because they help me multitask. And as you're gluing over other papers, just check to see if that glue's already dried, if you need to add a little bit more. And I'm just kind of not sure why I didn't start on this side. I guess in my head I'm thinking I'm doing a double page type thing. So you don't have to start on the right side, you can start on the left side. Sometimes when you open your book, it's nice to have that whole, both pages be like one concept, but it does not have to be. Because there's no rules in art journaling, it is lovely. Hopefully you guys are getting your fingers covered in glue because that's half the fun of it. I told my husband that if they ever had to fingerprint people, it would be the mixed media artist that would get away with everything, because once you have your fingers covered in matte gel, sometimes you have to scrape it off or put your hands in water for a while to soften that up. But I found the Mod Podge actually comes off pretty easy. Then I just try to fill in like the bigger white spots once I have the other pages down or the other paper down. Anything that's just kind of sticking out there at me. Now, when you are working in your book, sometimes it's good to have wax paper. Well, a lot of times it's good to have wax paper that you can lay under your page to kind of be a barrier between your other pages. That way, when you're going over the edges, like with gesso or paint, then you're not painting the pages underneath, especially when you're on this side and you've already done work on this side. You don't want to get that extra paint on your pages. Got a spot that didn't have any glue in there. Okay. So once you've got that done, then you're going to want to hit it with the hair dryer. So I'm going to mute so that I don't blow you guys away somewhere.
And if you guys don't have a hairdryer handy, just, you know, flap it around a lot.
Okay, so that's dry. And then what I like to do is just trim off the edges. Let me get these papers out of my way. That way when I'm gluing stuff on, I don't have to worry about the edges because I know I'm going to be coming back and trimming it. Okay, so then it's ready for our next step. So let me know where you guys are at, if you're at this step yet or not. So if you need me to wait, I want you to unmute and say wait. Otherwise, I'm going to continue.
My paper is still just a little bit wet because I don't have a hair dryer.
Okay.
Is that okay or not?
I think it's fine. Like, what did you use for glue? Did you use Mod Podge or?
I found a bit of Mod Podge.
Okay. All right. So that's going to dry relatively quickly, so we can wait a couple more minutes, and then you should be good.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And make sure if you're done with your Mod Podge and your brush, that you at least put your brush in your water so it doesn't dry and ruin your brush. So I will talk while we're waiting for your page to dry. So there's warm colors and there's cool colors. And without getting into an in-depth color theory, per se, I'm using colors that are next to each other on the color wheel because that way I know that they're not going to be gross. They're not going to, when blended, turn to mud. So I am probably going to be doing I haven't decided yet. I'm either going to do my background with a blue and a green, and my butterfly, I chose the butterfly, so I might do the butterfly in the red and the yellow, or vice versa. Okay. Let me know what colors you guys have And if you have like a blue and a green or a blue and a purple or a red and yellow. So if you have the cool colors, which are, see if I remember this correctly. I'm self-taught, so I didn't go to school for this, but they say that the warm colors are the ones that remind you of the sun and the fire. So it would be like your reds, yellows, oranges. And then the cool colors would remind you of the ocean. So like the blues, the greens, that side. Okay. So I'm just talking about colors, Brenna, that these are the colors I'm going to be using, the ones kind of next to each other on the color wheel. And I'm going to do my background. I think I'm going to do my background in the blue and the green. And then I'll do my butterfly in the red and yellow. So once your page is dry, it should be pretty dry by now, I'm going to get some blue out and some green. And then I can use my brush, or you can use, I use cosmetic sponges a lot, although I'm having an issue finding them right now. So I cut all the ones that I had in half. So I like to use cosmetic sponges or brushes. So I'm dipping it in both colors, and then I'm just going to apply it to my page. Now I can wipe some of that back off with my sponge so that I'm still getting the print behind it. Do you guys have gesso or a white paint at all?
I didn't provide that, so it's basically
Okay.
whatever they had at home.
Does everybody have white paint at home?
Do you mean like normal white paint?
Yeah, just white. So what I wanted to demonstrate also is you can have it, like my map has red on it and green, a bunch of different colors. So what you can do, if you have a bunch of different colors, but those aren't the colors you're wanting to go with, you can use a little bit of gesso or white paint. I'm just going to use gesso because that's what's in front of me. And then I'm going to water it down. So you could do this with white paint. And then you just do a thin, and if it gets too wet, you can just take your paper towel, a little bit of that white. And so what that will do is that will just kind of make your page into one color. I got a lot of water in there. And it just kind of tones it down so that you're working on one color versus all these different ones. But you want it thin enough so you can still see the map, the book paper, the music paper underneath. I pretty much already got paint on these, so I won't worry too much about that. And that will also dry relatively quick. That just kind of gives you an even tone. So this page was leftover paint earlier when I was prepping my new page, which I have more red on this side, but you can see how muted it is versus this here. And that's because I went over it with a little bit of white gesso when I was done. So that just kind of puts the background back in the back when you're working with a focal image like we will be doing today. Okay. I'm going back to my paint. and just spreading it around. And I'm just letting those colors mix on the page, and they don't even have to be all mixed in. And we don't use the word perfect when we're art journaling, because that's not the point of art journaling. It's more important to learn about the process, or just to kind of let it take over and you just go with the flow. But I can still see the print underneath, and that's what I want. It doesn't have to be glaringly obvious, but it's good to be able to see some of that. So the thought of using the warm and cool colors today is because they contrast well. So if you have, like you have this blue in the back, then using a yellow or a red over that is going to contrast, and it'll stand out more. I have one piece on my paper that doesn't want to take any paint whatsoever. I think that's a good place for the butterfly. Okay. So then we just want that to dry. And if you don't have a hair dryer, if you have like another book or a foam plate, which I got out to use as a palette, but I used my table quite a bit. And this is a cover that I got that, like, it's real easy cleanup when you have something on there. It's just some water, or just rub it, or take a credit card and it takes everything off. It's wonderful. Okay, and you can kind of set that aside, because then we're going to turn to our focal image. Which I don't need this big butterfly. So what I like to do is, it's an old dictionary, but you could use any paper that you wanted. I could use the Braille paper, I could use music paper again. Whatever paper that you want to use for your butterfly. So let me know if you need me to wait. Say wait.
Wait.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay. Joanne, it looks like somebody's in the waiting room. Are you still admitting people, or is it too late for them, or what do you think?
Can you admit them? Because I gave you host.
Oh,
So if
sorry
you,
about
I
that.
think you can do that.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Well, at least it's recording.
Yes.
Be able to.
Oh, so Liam just joined, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, are we ready to move on?
Is this okay-ish?
Oh, it looks beautiful to me. Do you like it?
Watercolor doesn't stick very well.
No, not to glue. True.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You could, well, you don't have gesso, never mind. I was gonna say you could use gesso as a ground, but it wouldn't act like watercolor at that point.
I think though, the good
I
thing
mean,
is you can take this for the next, for future. So even if it isn't exactly what you want tonight, you can,
The things that you're learning tonight, you can always apply. And that's where I love taking different classes. Like I'll take classes in alcohol ink or watercolor even, which is not my primary medium that I work with. But there's things, whether it's a brush stroke, like to make a petal or a leaf or something, I always learn something that I can use in my art. And so that's always fun. Okay. So Joanne, did you provide them with tracing paper, like graphite paper?
I did not. I'm sorry. No.
Nope, that's okay.
Okay.
So did each of you print out the page with the owl or the butterfly? Okay, perfect. So what you want to do is you want to turn it over, and then you can take a pencil and then just scribble over. You can scribble over the whole thing, or I just usually scribble over the lines of the image. And sometimes if you're working on a dark surface, you can do this with white chalk, like just regular chalkboard chalk. Or if it's during the day, you can tape. I use my light or my window as a light box, so I'll tape my paper on the window and then I'll put the pattern over it so I can trace it. Or I put the pattern down and then I put my paper over it so I can trace it through the window.
What? I got a pencil.
Okay, you got a pencil. So what I'm doing now is on the back side of the butterfly, I'm just putting pencil over the line so that after I do this, I'm going to turn it over onto whatever paper I'm going to transfer it onto. And then when I trace over the line, it's going to leave that lead on the paper.
Oh. You eat loud. Okay.
So then when you're done with the pencil, you'll place it somewhere on your, where you wanted to, whatever you wanted to trace it onto. And then I use a pen to trace over the design on the opposite side. And then pick it up so you can kind of see, and it doesn't have to be a super dark line. You just need to be able to see it, so then you can outline it with your Sharpie. Let me know if that does not make sense.
Hey, Julia,
Yeah?
could you mute yourself one more time?
Yeah.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I didn't know I was unmuted.
That's okay.
So, and what we're doing in your art journal, you can glue things out of a magazine. I got, I have a stack of art journals next to me. This one I did yesterday on my live on Facebook, and this heart was on the cover of a art supply magazine. So I'm always looking for stuff like that when I get mail, or if I see a magazine that has a lot of images that I can use, I'll buy it. So I have a tub with all these images that I can use. And then you just want to cut out, first I need to trace it. This old paper is quite thin. It's fragile. Good enough. Oh, my butterfly wants to fly away already. That is really weird. That has not done that before. So apparently with an old dictionary, it's a really old dictionary, and the Sharpie just kind of was enough moisture on the page to not have to technically cut it out. Very strange, but kind of cool. I will use that again for sure. Now I just need to piece it. Maybe it'll be a mosaic butterfly. Who knows? So when you get your image cut out your focal point. And because we're using paper and not like a magazine cutout, and we just want to add some color to it. And I'm going to have to be super careful with mine because apparently it doesn't go well with water or wet medium. But I don't want a real thick paint on there either. So trial and error. So I'm using my brush this time because I'm not trusting my paper with the sponge. I don't think it would like me very much. I'm not sure it would survive. I do love, though, having two colors on my brush and just letting them mix on the paper. That way it's not like a real intentional kind of thing. Because let's be real, we have enough to think about and enough decisions to make all day. So when it comes to art, it's nice to just let things flow. I need some black paint. Black paint. Did anybody choose the owl? I wonder.
I did.
You did? Awesome.
Yeah, I chose the owl.
So what I did, Kayla, the blue on my other page, I just was cleaning up the excess paint that I had. And so a lot of times what I will do is instead of putting it in a paper towel and throwing it away, or if I have paint left on a plate, I will use it and just add layers in my art journal, because it's just paint. If I don't like it, I can paint over it or collage over it and use it again, but at least I know it's not being wasted. So if you were able to get your focal image done, I'm not working on this left side. Let me put a piece of white paper there. I'm not working over here. So kind of position it where you're going to want it to be. And I want to do some sort of a saying like change can be beautiful, because when you think about a butterfly, started out as an ugly, hairy little caterpillar, right? And just went about its own life, doing what it was created to do, and then emerged this gorgeous butterfly. So many times in our life, especially this past year, we feel like we're that ugly, hairy caterpillar just going along with life. But good things are going to happen, right? So good things happen every day. We just need to remember, and more importantly, we need to look for them, so that we can see the treasures of every day. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about with mark making, if you did not have stencils, if you don't have stencils, tonight I have some alternative ways you can make marks. And the other thing is the dollar store. just got restocked with a bunch of art stuff. So they have these stencils, which I thought were pretty cool because for $1 you get 4 different stencils designs on here. And usually a 6x6 stencil is going to be around $5. So that's cool. So you can use the stencils. When I talk about mark making, we talk about just making marks on a page. I mean, it sounds more complicated maybe than it really is, but that's all it is making marks on a page. You can do that with bubble wrap. I do love me some bubble wrap. And I'm going to cut a smaller piece. So I have some bubble wrap for tonight. I have a plastic fork. I have, this is an empty tape dispenser, a tape roll dispenser thing. So I like that it has a double circle, so I kept that in my mark making box. Of course, we all know what this is. It's from the pizza in the center, so it has this cool triangle type thing. And then this is a toilet paper roll that I flattened and then just kind of swirled it up into a little swirly thing. The other thing you can use is the bottom of a water bottle, like the bottom of this water bottle, and they all have different bottoms. I look at these kind of things. Let me use red so it'll show up.
May I go down into my downstairs to get some ruby acrylic?
Yeah, you can leave.
Bye.
So if you're going to use the water bottle, I would recommend using it with water in it. So then I'm just kind of stamping into the paint that I spread thinly. And then I'm just using it to stamp on. And it looks like this really cool looking flower. And then, you know, you always got to work in threes, so I can't stop now. I just love it. My husband says we'll never throw anything away if it can make a mark. He's not wrong. And then baby wipes are always good to have too because they clean up quite nicely. The other thing you can do is with your paper towels, and I know I'm getting a little crazy here, but that's what I do, is I save my painty paper towels, and because they have color on them, and I have a pile of them, and when they dry, I can pull them apart and then use them on the background. So my white thing. When I'm working with bubble wrap, get another paper towel here. So Julia, this is the mark that my water bottle made, the bottom of the water bottle. So I just kind of thinned some paint out on the table and put the bottom there and then stamped it in the book. I stamp vegetables, you guys. So I'll try anything to see what kind of a mark it makes. So when we're dealing with bubble wrap, which comes in many different sizes and shapes, I just use a little bit of paint on my brush, and I don't want a big square on my page, so I'm just going to do kind of this organic shape, just lightly going over those bubbles with my brush, because if I go too hard, then it's going to get the paint down in between all the bubbles, and then that also will end up on your page. And then I just press down and pull up. So you get this real cool, I get excited about things like this. Real cool little mark. So again, working in threes, I'm just going to put this in 3 different places. I'm just going to carry it over to the other side. Voila. And then I want to, definitely I'm going to be adding some to my butterfly. To both sides of its wing. It will stay somewhat together for me. There. So now she's got some on her too. What other mark do I want to make? I said I'm not working on this other side, but since I have paint out and I'm here, I'm just going to do that. Okay. So with the blue-green background, if I use some of the red, that's going to show up nice. And let's say I want to use my fork in that. I'm just going to add some marks. Not all the same direction. Maybe add some dots here and there. The idea is you just want to get the color kind of spread throughout the page. So that's good enough for that. If you're using a stencil, I like this one. They have stencil brushes that you can use, and if you're using those, they're usually round, and you'll dab them in the paint. I don't have one handy. You'll dab it in the paint and then make sure that it's not super filled with paint, and then you just go in a circular motion through your stencil. I tend to use baby wipes. Let me get a different color, maybe yellow. Yellow with some white. And then depending on the shape of your stencil, you don't want to get the whole, like if I use this stencil, the whole square, I'm going to have this big square of color in the middle of my page. So I'm just going to use a portion of my stencil. And again, I'm working kind of in threes on my page. That way it has more of an organic feel instead of it just being, oh, look, there's a stencil. There's that. So then I want to use some yellow on this side. I think I will do like that one. And if you're using a sponge, you just want to go straight up and down. You don't want to ever move it across your stencil because then you're going to get a lot of paint under your stencil. And that's called bleeding, and you don't want to bleed. Okay. I think my little guy's probably going to go somewhere in here, so that works just perfect. So then on my butterfly, so I basically used the red and yellow on my background, which contrasts nicely with the blue. And now on my butterfly, since it is already the orange and yellow, I'm going to use some of the blues and greens. Just to add a little contrast. I'm kind of mixing those on my desk. And I think I will use this circle because my butterfly is a little small on here. So I think I will just use this in the corners. I like that, how that looks. And I think I want some more of that yellow on here. And adding white to it will make it stick out a little bit more. Are you guys having fun with mark making? What's I going to put on here? Oh yeah, this. Dry, dry, dry. Julia, how are you doing, hon?
Good.
Good? Okay,
I'm just writing with the end of this paintbrush.
perfect. Brenna, how are you doing on your little guy?
I'm doing good. I was seeing if my mom had any bubble wrap, and she did.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I have found square bubble wrap and the big round ones. I found ovals. I found hexagons. It's amazing. Another thing I like to collect for mark making is bath mats, if they have a design on them. and placemats and the kitchen or the sink liners in the kitchen so your dishes don't hit the bottom. I tell you, it can be addictive for sure. I'm gonna mute and dry.
Hey, Julia, I think you need to mute again. Thank you.
My dad just came home, so and
Oh,
us
did he?
and my brother's watching a TV show. That's it.
See how he is.
That's okay.
Don't they know there's art happening? This is important.
My dad doesn't. He just got home.
Oh, did he? Oh, it's a
Yeah.
long day.
A vascular surgery isn't easy.
No. He had surgery today?
No. He
Oh,
is a surgeon.
Oh, he is a surgeon. Ooh,
So he comes home late.
yeah. He keeps different hours, but important hours nonetheless, huh? Okay. Cool. Okay. So when you have your mark making done in the background, and I don't go overboard when I do the initial mark making because I want to sandwich my focal point in. And what that means is I want to make sure some of the markings are also on him. So, or also on him and the background. So once I put the focal point in, I need to glue it first. So Julia, you're using Mod Podge with your watercolor. I'm guessing that's kind of, is that moving it around? If it moves it around too much, and you're going to stick with watercolor, you might consider getting like a finishing spray or a fixative spray that you can spray before you add other layers to it.
I'm doing acrylic right now.
Okay, perfect. I usually say that acrylic is like the dog in the family. You can train it. Usually it'll stay where you tell it to go. And it's easy to work with. You're the boss basically of acrylic. But watercolor is like the cat of the family, which sometimes will allow you to participate in what it's going to do anyway. So it kind of does its own thing. And then I'm just giving the whole thing just a thin coat of the Mod Podge to, in a sense, just kind of seal it in there.
I made a mistake on one of the wings, so I just filled it in and did it on the other wing.
Perfect. See, you learn how to
Oh, a whole bunch of
overcome.
words.
Yeah. That's one way that art, especially mixed media and art journaling, can teach us how to kind of go with the flow and pivot and overcome. All good.
I even painted change can be beautiful and love and change and transformation. I all wrote those things. I wrote those.
Awesome. I'm going to mute and dry. So Joanne, we're a little over on the half-hour mark. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think as long as everyone's okay with it, we can continue.
Okay. Cool. Because we're on a roll. We can't stop now. Okay. So we got that on there, and now I'm going to sandwich my little guy in there. And all that means is I'm going to add, like I did a portion of the blue here, and I'm just going to go back over that, but make sure some of the blue gets on the background. And that just makes him look like he's not floating on top, but actually kind of included. And you can do that, like I could have done it with a bubble wrap. I just needed some more of this blue. So I had some open places in here. Going off the page. That it just gives it a more cohesive look. Okay. And then you've already got your saying written on there. So you can also, if you have a printer, I like writing in my journal, like handwriting, but you can also, this is a shamrock that I did for a demo for a class later this month. You can print out the words on printer paper and then just cut around them and glue those down. Sometimes that can be fun too. Let me mute and dry this one. Okay. So then we're just down to the finishing touches then. So usually a phrase. If you want a phrase, you don't always have to have a phrase. I'm going to give my butterfly back its little antler, or antlers. I could give it antlers. That would be kind of bohemian. Anyway, these little things. And then my Sharpie. I'm just going to go around them again since my paper didn't really care for that. And then I always encourage you to sign and date your work. Because as you grow in your art journaling venture, you'll be able to look back and see how much you've grown and improved on like drawing or color combinations and stuff like that. Makes them stand out a little bit. And then if you don't like your own handwriting, you can still use it. Kind of a fun way to change it up is just adding like little serifs at the end, which can be a line or a dot. But it changes it up just enough to where it looks a little whimsical. And you can add marks with your Sharpie as well. Just kind of adding a little bit more black to the page. I think that's good. Just kidding. And then if you have a white gel pen, those are always good to have in your toolbox. Or a, what is this, Uniball Signo. I always get confused on the highlighting and shading, so oh well. I think I started on one side and ended on another, but that's all right. How are you girls doing? Brenna, what do you think of your bubble wrap?
I like it. I'm using the same gel pen that you have.
Oh,
And
cool.
I'm outlining my saying.
Very cool.
I've learned a lot of things from this. 1, don't use watercolor. 2, don't write in paint. 3, don't use stencils. 4.
Oh no, what happened with your stencil?
Oh, it just started bleeding and it just doesn't work.
What kind of acrylic are you using?
I'm mixed.
Okay, so that's a craft paint. What's in your right hand?
This?
Yeah, that one.
Well, it's a non-toxic art mine something. It was the only black I had.
Okay. So when you used it with the stencil, did you apply it with a brush?
Yeah.
Like a regular paintbrush?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you will get bleeding with that. I would recommend getting like a cosmetic sponge,
Okay.
like these little things.
I don't have a cosmetic sponge, but I do have this.
That might work. So what you'll want to do is when you're loading your paint on your sponge or the brush, you'll want to load the paint on it and then dab it off to where on another piece of paper or something to where it's not real thick. And then you just want to gently up and down on your stencil. You don't ever want to drag it across your stencil because the stencil will then scrape it off under it.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's what I did wrong.
I would definitely practice. I would not give up on stencils yet.
Okay.
Absolutely not. They're too fun to have. So my letters to me don't feel like they're standing out very much. So I'm just going to thicken them a little bit. So you have that option as well. So the watercolor thing, if you had a watercolor journal, that would probably work better for you for watercolor. But yeah, for art journaling, usually acrylics are good because they're not they're permanent once dry.
Hey, Julia, what watercolor are you using?
Yeah, there's our watercolor expert right here, Miss Brenna. Julia, you're muted, hun.
The one I got from the library. I don't.
Yeah, those ones, like, in my opinion, they're not that good, but I use Aqua Pen Graphics. I got it for Christmas, and they're a pen. There's a brush pen and then a tip pen, and then I get my watercolor blending brush, and then I do it. And this is just a simple bookmark that I made
Oh, cool.
without like any design or anything.
So you have the Marabou graphic aqua pens?
I have the Aqua Pen. Oh yeah, I have those. Yeah, the
You have
Marabou.
Marabou? Ah, they're so fun. Another thing that I use that's a Marabou product is the art crayons. They're one of my favorite things. So if you guys ever get a chance to use them, I know they have them at Spoken Art Supply, and I think they have them maybe at Michael's, but they're water soluble like watercolor, so you can use them when you travel, and just the water pen on the pigment stick, and that works really well. But I use them for a lot of different things.
Yeah, I use them too.
I love them. So, I've probably seen you in Spokane Art Supply, maybe, or a craft show or something like
Yeah, I
that.
usually go to Michael's all the time.
Yeah. So I'm just thickening up my letters so they stand out a little bit more. But other than that, we are pretty much done. So Brenna, what did you learn about art journaling that, well, I guess since it's your first time art journaling, what do you think you'll be continuing doing it and experimenting in your art journal?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do it.
Love it. I'm happy to influence that way anytime I can. I think if I would have known I had any artistic ability like this when I was a teenager, I would have stayed out of trouble because I would have had something to do. But the creative thing that I did in school was I was always in choir. I was like in jazz choir and stuff like that. But it didn't take up all my time. And then when I was an adult, I started quilting, and I loved that. But one day I walked into the quilt store, and they had this cute garden bug painted on fabric, and they had a clasp for it, and that's what got me painting. So I will forever be thankful for that. Okay, there, now I can see it. And then I'm just going to sign it and date it. 2/16. Mardi Gras.
Looks wonderful. Looks really good.
Yeah. Did you guys have any questions or anything for me? I want to make sure before we leave that I see your artwork. For sure, for sure.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, that is gorgeous. Very, very good. Good job. So, Julia, do you think that you will be filling out the rest of your pages, especially in stencil practice? You have homework, young lady.
Yeah.
Not that you need any more of that.
Yeah, I will.
Joanna, I'm okay if they have my contact information. I would love if they could email me their art so I could see it up close.
Okay, perfect. And I will
Okay.
definitely be reaching out to you again. You know, maybe a second class. Maybe you know, now that they've got the basics down, maybe they'd be
Yeah.
doing more. That would be great. And
Oh,
also,
that would be excellent. I would love that.
cool. And also, I just want to let you guys know the next kit that is coming up for you is going to be another art kit. So it's going to be an acrylic dragonfly kit. So look out for that. That's coming up in March. We're not in March right now, are we? No, we're in February. Good. I've lost all sense of time.
It almost feels like it.
I know, right?
It's just not as windy.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you guys for attending. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Robyn, for doing such a wonderful job.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Like I said, anytime I can influence on art journaling, I'm game.
Okay. And I will send everyone the recording so you know you can kind of go over it again. And
Okay.
yeah, I'll get the information to them as well for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I would love to see pictures.
Perfect. All right, you guys.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You're welcome. I'll see you guys again.